Welcome to Cackling Heifas, the podcast where it's all about hot topics, wild current events, life's curveballs, and everything that makes us laugh out loud. I'm Mercedes, your solo host, bringing you my unapologetic take on the world, one cackle at a time. So buckle up because it's going to be a hilarious, unfiltered ride. What's up, you guys? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here. I think I should have made it clear podcast that I meant next Monday that the podcast would be resuming its regular schedule of Mondays. So we are back on schedule. I'm back in it. So get ready for this thing to keep going. It'll be uploaded much earlier than today's evening podcast. But nonetheless, we are still here and the pod is going to continue and it's going on. So, let me give you an update about me. What has been going on with me lately? So, we talked about the election. That was hella depressing, correct? Like, we were all depressed. Um, I was depressed. I pondered a lot of things. I went into the abyss of TikTok and oh my gosh. Like, if you ever want an echo chamber, let me tell you, TikTok is your echo chamber to reinforce everything that you're feeling, which I won't say is always good, but it was definitely comforting. But this week and the past couple weeks, I've been on a weight loss journey. I keep saying, like, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna lose weight, and then I never start the process. But let me tell y'all, I went to a friend's house to pick up a gift she got me. And I went to her apartment to eat lunch. We're chitting, we're talking, we're chit-chatting. And I'm sitting at like her counter, her bar, and her bathroom door is open. So there's a big mirror and I can see my side profile. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. I did not like what I saw at all. And that was kind of the catalyst for me to start doing a calorie deficit, working out every day, drinking water, eating clean, and it has been working. I'm losing the weight. I am in it. Like now I'm in it. It's all going to come off. Like there is no going back because if I go back and I stop now, I'm just going to be bigger forever because I'm not doing this again. But it does feel good to see the weight coming off, knowing that I don't have to do Ozempic or anything because I thought about it because I was getting up there. But seeing the weight come off with hard work is really doing something for me. I didn't do fad diet. Sometimes I'll do keto. I did not do that. I did not do a smoothie diet. I did not do any of the stuff. I count my calories. I'm eating clean. I have a cutoff time. I'm drinking lots of water. I'm doing cardio and another workout. And I'm also working on my abs to get that waist snatched. I did have a little motivation outside of seeing that side profile, but I'm gonna have to tell y'all about that later because I don't know what's gonna happen with that. I'm gonna talk about it later. I know you're gonna talk about it now. So that's what's been going on with me. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Oh, the YSL trial is finishing up. I think I told you guys I watched that while I'm working. It's on in the background, and that's going to be the end of an era. So I'll update you guys as to what happens there. Most of you all know Young Thug is out. There was a call for a mistrial, and it forced the state to actually negotiate and give out plea deals. So there's only two left in this trial. There were originally six, and four of them have pled out. Two of them are still on trial, and this is the last. They're on the last witness. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated. But now we are going to be on to our hot topics. All right. So the hot chocolate for this week, we're going to be talking about several things, but not long. So Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. I think it's Jake Paul. Jake Logan, one of them. Jake Paul. The fight was on Netflix, and I like boxing. My dad likes boxing, my mother likes boxing. So I'll go back and watch old fights, but when boxing was in its heyday. So I'll watch the heavyweights, the welterweights, the lightweights. I've watched old Sugar Ray Leonard fights, old Muhammad Ali fights, old Tyson fights. I love it all. I love Mike Tyson in terms of like, being a boxer and his style of boxing. And so I was excited about this, but Netflix, you tried to live stream Love is Blind, the reunion. Not this season, the season before. It was a disaster. It didn't come on. It came on like 3 hours late. It was buffering. Same thing happened with this. It was a horror to watch. You had to go out, come back in, go out, come back in. It would buffer, it would stay on 25%. And then the time, the not the time, the sound would go out. So that was absolutely horrendous to watch. It was not fun, it was not smooth, and it was not eventful. The fight was awful. And now I'm hearing that their contracts allegedly had terms, so there were certain moves neither one of them could do, and particularly Tyson. And then they had to go, if they wanted to get the full payout, they had to go to the distance of 8 rounds. So this fight was 8 rounds, 8 2-minute rounds. And yeah, so we were all kind of duped. It was like that was a waste of time. If I could get my time back from watching that, I would snatch it. So, if you guys watched that, what did you think? Did you enjoy it? And ain't nobody enjoyed that shit. So let's just go on to the next topic. Speaking of Netflix, Beyonce has announced that, well, Netflix had already said they were doing they had the Christmas NFL games. And so it's going to be the Ravens versus the Texans, and Beyonce is doing the halftime. And when I tell you, people are already on Netflix's ass to have this shit together. Okay? No buffering. We are not playing with Beyonce. Somebody called the Beehive O Block. If you know that reference, that you know that's a block in Chicago. I think it's like the Gangster Disciples, or there's a gang there, the old block. That's where Lil Durk, King Von, that's where they come from. So yeah, he referred to us as a gang, saying if Netflix does not have this right, we are coming after them. And that is so true. Do not mess with the Beehive. We want the halftime show crispy, non-buffering, and smooth all the way through. Because most families normally watch, I mean, they'll have the games on, but it's usually like Christmas movie time. So we get Beyonce. Oh, I am so excited. Prepare to be sick of me talking about this. I'm one of the ones that stayed up at 3 a.m., had to work watching Beachella, crying in the dark in my living room watching Beachella. I will never get enough of it. I won't call them out, but there's still members of my family who have not watched Beachella, even though it's available on Netflix. Shame on you. So that's that. In the political world, Trump has made some appointments. Some of those appointments have been authors or co-authors of Project 2025. Matt Gaetz is our new attorney general, and RFK Jr. is going to be the head of HHS, which I talked about last podcast, and the consequences of what that might mean for public health may be dire. He stated that he wants to focus on chronic disease and maybe not focus on drugs and infectious disease for 8 years. You should always be focused on infectious disease. You should always be focused on drugs and chronic disease, all three of them, because they're all killers. But every day in this country, every state health department, every local health department, counties, city health departments, there are programs and initiatives that are focused on chronic disease. When I had my internship getting my undergrad degree in public health, I worked with No Kid Hungry, and we taught classes to those that were on SNAP. Those were the only people that were eligible that were on Medicaid and SNAP. And we taught them how to cook healthy meals, how to shop more healthy, how to pick items that didn't have sodium. And we gave away free vegetables and fruits from local Georgia farmers, where we were promoting heart health. So there are plenty. That's just one, but there are so many others. There's Meals on Wheels. There's other things that promote public health, that promote nutrition, that promote exercise to help alleviate the burden of chronic disease all around the country. So that should be focused on, but so should infectious disease and so should drugs. Like, I'm going to get off my high horse, but really quick before we go on to the next subject, the last episode, I went on a little bit of a rant where I said, I hope you get everything you wish for, because, like, what is that going to do? That wasn't necessarily clear. I was basically trying to say the things that Trump voters want to happen to the economy, the things that Trump is proposing, are more than likely not going to do that. So when I say, what is that going to do for the country? Yes, lower groceries and lower cost of gas and things like that would be great for the country. But I'm saying what you're going to get, what you wanted versus what you're going to get, is not going to be great for the country. And I should have made that clear, but I was kind of ranting. And I also said that like 46% of Hispanic men voted for Trump when it was actually 55. It was over half. So I wanted to clear that up. I was just heated when I recorded that podcast. So there were some things that I wanted to make absolutely clear in this pod. All right. Our next topic is Megan Good and Jonathan Majors are engaged. Now, if you've been listening to this podcast, when this podcast started, it was in the thick of everything Jonathan Majors. Okay. As we know, he was charged with assault against an ex-girlfriend. He was found guilty of unintentional assault. Like, his actions caused harm, but they were saying it wasn't intentional. So that's what he was found guilty of. Him and Megan Good's relationship always seemed like a PR stunt to me, but I guess this is real. I've never been a big fan of Megan Good. She's always given me pick me energy, in my opinion. That may not be true, but some of her stances and some of the men she's chosen to be vocal about, like, there's a football player who died, Jim Brown, who was very, very abusive. Um, she claims that he was like a godfather to her. I don't know the backstory on that, so I don't want to speak too much. But she's had the back of some problematic men, and I have not liked that. In terms of Jonathan Majors, I think everyone deserves a second chance. I don't know if he's done the work publicly for us to be like, yes, jump back into everything. I think there needs to be a little bit more accountability. When he did his interview, it was a he did an interview, I believe it was with ABC, and it seemed to be a lot of deflecting instead of accountability. And I think that some accountability from what you've been charged with, like, yes, I did this, I overreacted, it wasn't my intention, and, like, just stay there. Don't then go into the toxicity of your relationship. Just stay there. If he can do that, I think he'll be good. I think he'll be able to come back into mainstream. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see. But now we are going to get into the shit. All right. So, since the election, we have heard the term woke. Woke, woke, woke. The Democrats were too woke. There's a New York Times article by Maureen Dowd that slams the Democrats due to their wokeism and identity politics. As a young girl growing up in the South, my mom's brother, her youngest brother, converted to Islam. He read a lot. He played the Staple Sisters. He was so into soul and so radical. He changed his name. And you know what? He used that term woke. That's one of the first times I've heard the term woke. Now, I was talking to my dad about this subject because I was like, I hate that white people have co opted the term woke. It grinds my gears because they've taken an AAEV term And they've made it into something that they've weaponized it against Black people and against progressives. So, woke is an African American English vernacular term. And I'm going to get into the history of it because I want everyone to know the history. But back to my thought, I didn't finish my thought with my dad. He says he doesn't believe a lot of Black people even have heard the term or know what it means. I think a lot of us have. So that's going to be my question this week on the podcast. Have Did you hear the term woke before the mainstream media took over the word? Had you heard the term woke used in the Black community before? So that's going to be a question. But I found an article, and let me get it ready because we're going to talk about this. So this article is from the Legal Defense Fund. It's called How Woke Went from Black to Bad. And it's by Aishna Robinson, and she's the deputy editorial director. And where I'm going to start off is the Black lineage of woke. And I'm going to read a quote from this article. So, to be woke is to be Black. It's how OK Player, senior news and cultural reporter Elijah Watson defined the Black American colloquialism. Now broadly used diversively, when he embarked on a journey in 2017 to plot its origins. Ironically, his research turned up a 1962 New York Times essay, If You're Woke, You Dig It, by then Harlem based writer William Melvin Kelly, who was highlighting the phenomenon of Black American slang being appropriated by white people who often missed or altogether distorted the word's original meaning until the idioms were taken over, inevitably transformed, and ultimately abandoned by their original Black creators. So there was an article by the New York Times as early as 1962 discussing the phenomena of Black American slang being taken over and appropriated by white people. Michael Harriot, if you guys aren't familiar with him, he has an amazing podcast, but he's a columnist for the Griot, and he's the author of the upcoming book, or it may already be out based on when this article was put out, Black AF History, the Unwhitewashed Story of America. And it explains the kind of insidious takeover of flipping Black vernacular to anti-Black pejorative, and it has numerous parallels in America's past and runs all the way up to the present. Harriet says, when you look at the long arc of history and America's reaction to the request for Black liberation, every time Black people try to use a phrase or coin a phrase that symbolizes our desire for liberation, we will eventually become the word will eventually become a cuss word to white people. And that's exactly what's happened with woke. Woke has become a curse word to white people. If I could go back to the moment where the first white person uses woke, you know how Men in Black, they have those memory zappers? I would do that immediately. I hate a term that was dear to the Black community, that was sacred to the Black community, has been co-opted in such an egregious fashion. I don't want to hear the term anymore. Come up with something else. Do not use it anymore. It's lazy. It was a term for us to be like, stay woke. Let me give you an example of how Black people used it versus what is being said today. So let's say there was a grocery store, and that grocery store in your community, let's say it's a Black community, a small Black town, and that grocery store was not hiring Black people at all. They maybe had one person, but they weren't hiring any Black people at all. And someone noticed it and said, "Hey, let me think of a grocery store. Um, Billy Bob's grocery store. They haven't been hiring us, and I've applied like 5 times." And the person responded, "It's like, stay woke. Like, they're trying to cut us out of getting jobs. They're trying to make it hard for us to make a living." That is a very loosely based story. I could have thought of a much better story, but that's what came to mind. But that's essentially how the term was used, to bring light to discrimination and injustices that were happening to Black people in America. Now, if you say that all kids, no matter income everywhere, or all kids nationally deserve free lunch and breakfast, that's woke. Like anything that has to do with giving back or being inclusive of gender or race is now considered woke. And in an age, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Utah State passed a law that says if the temperature drops below 18 degrees, your county must offer warming centers. And there was a group of people that came together to protest this warming center. It was originally supposed to be at a Presbyterian church, and then they moved it to an industrial warehouse in an industrial area, and over 100 people showed up to protest this warming center. If you're a person saying no, these centers should be there, and not only should they be there, people should be allowed to be in them before it even has to get to 18 degrees, that would be considered woke. And the fact people have been saying we live in a country where morality is at an all-time low. That's where we're at. That is where we're at. The fact that co-opting the term woke as a symbol of being inclusive, which is completely not its meaning, but to use it as a cuss word, essentially, like the article stated, to signal to those on the right, to racists, that, hey, this is something that you need to be against because it's inclusive. It's downright disgusting. And I want the term to be displaced. I want to think of another term that they can use. I don't care if they still use it in the same way. Just don't use our word anymore for the way that you're using it. That's not what it was intended for, and that's not what it should be used as. And that's the shit for this week. I hope you learned something from that talk, and I hope you choose not to use the term woke in the way that mainstream media is using that term. Use something else. It's not it Oh, I'm going to think of something, and I'm going to come up with a very elegant way to describe how we should discuss issues that are now being coined as woke going forward, and we'll do that next episode. All right, on to the next thing. So, all right, I have a new segment this week because, as you guys know, if you've been listening to the podcast, we had the best and worst of Black Twitter. Never called it X, but it was a segment. But I would like to announce that I have deleted all my accounts that were on X/Twitter. I had my YouTube page. I did makeup and reviews and things like that called Sadie B Has You Covered. That's the name of my Instagram page that I still use, kind of like as a personal Instagram page now. But I had just a personal one with just my name, and then the podcast has one. Those have all been deactivated. I know everyone's migrating to Blue Sky, or they're on Threads, or even Spill, but I haven't really heard people talk about Spill lately. So I don't know if I'm going to put the podcast on Blue Sky or one of the others. I am personally on Threads, but I don't know if I'll be doing that going forward. We'll see. We have a TikTok, we have an Instagram. I think that's good. And we have a YouTube, which this video will finally be on YouTube. This will be the first video back where I'm putting the videos of the podcast on YouTube. But wait until tomorrow if you want to watch the video of this podcast. I need some time to edit. But yeah, so no longer on Twitter. So RIP Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And so one of the new segments is called This Heifer's Weird Obsession. Now, we all have them, but I'm just putting mine out in the open. And my latest obsession. So I go to sleep with the TV on. I used to be able to go to sleep in the dark, pitch black, no sound, no phone. I can't do it anymore. Some stuff happened in my life. that completely gave me the worst anxiety, and I've never been able to go back. So I have to have the TV on, and it's always YouTube. Now, at first, y'all, I was all into cave diving and cave diving fails. That's what I went to sleep to. I follow this channel called Dive Talk, and I watched video after video after video of cave diving and some disastrous cave dives. Like, that's what I was into. Now, my latest weird obsession is bodybuilding. I am all in. That's what I watch when I work out in the gym. That's what I'm watching on YouTube. That's what I go to sleep in. That's what I go to sleep to. I'm obsessed with how they go pro, like what it's like for them to get their pro card. I'm obsessed with the whole Mr. Olympia of it all and the Arnold Schwarzenegger. I can't even say his name. Oh my god, I was about to butcher that. There's the Arnold Classic, which is his event, and there's other like bodybuilding competitions, but Mr. Olympia is like the big one. I'm obsessed with what they eat, how much they eat, what they take, because they all have what do they call it? Oh my god, there's a term that they call it. It's not their kit, it's like kit tools. Oh, I can't remember it. Anyways, basically steroids. They take steroids or human growth um supplements and testosterone, and I'm like obsessed with like what that does to their body, what it does to their health, their blood work. Like, I've watched videos of them talking about their blood work, how their blood work comes out clean, what they need to watch for, like their health, all of it. Like, I'm all in. I'm obsessed. I don't know how long this obsession will last, but I am obsessed. I watch Ronnie. There's like an is he 8-time Mr. Olympia? Yes, his name's Ronnie. And then there's Phil Heath, who's 7-time. And then there's a guy before Ronnie, but I cannot remember his name. I can't remember all the names right now. Just know that I'm into it. And if you're slightly into it, then you know some of the names that I've mentioned. But yes, that's my new weird obsession. So that's going to be a new segment. I'm pretty sure I'll have more to share because I have lots of weird obsessions. Like I told you, the cave diving. Now it's bodybuilding. We'll see what it'll be next month, but I'll keep you guys updated. And now we're going to go on to the last segment of the day. So, in our last segment, and I did this when we came back, episode 15, the reboot of the podcast, this segment was introduced, and it's what I'm rotting to. And what I rotted to, well, it can't technically be rotting because I was only able to rot to like 3 episodes before I got caught up. And that is The Penguin. OMG. So I don't know if you all are into comic book, TV shows, movies, Marvel, that's all comic book related. Well, so is DC. The Batman, Superman, Aquaman, um, Superwoman, those are all DC comics. And they started a series called The Penguin. So if you watch the last Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, I loved it. That movie was 3 hours, but me and my son loved it. If you watch that, you saw the Penguin in that movie. So this picks up where the movie left off. But you do not you don't have to watch the Batman, the last one, in order to watch the Penguin. You don't have to be caught up with the Batman. It would be nice. You can go back and watch it even, but you can start the Penguin. It can be a standalone show. And Colin Farrell is the Penguin. And if you've seen advertisements for the Penguin and hear me just say that it's Colin Farrell, you will never like he transformed. The acting is immaculate. It is an absolutely phenomenally amazing show. It is dark. It is moody, so don't watch it in the daytime because you won't be able to see shit like you couldn't see shit if you were watching Game of Thrones or House of Dragons. But it is so, so, so good. It is dark. There are some parts that are downright disturbing, but in a really like get you thinking type of way, not in of like, I want to turn this off. This is too much. It is genuinely a good show. There's not a bad actor or actress. It is brilliantly written, and I can't wait to see the next Batman because this is to set up the next Batman. So I can't wait to see what they do. You guys are going to love it. Tune in. Let me know your thoughts. Also, Silo on Apple TV is back, and Severance will be back in January. So if you want to rot to something and you haven't watched either of those shows, they're both on Apple TV. Do not sleep on Apple TV. It has some of the best TV that I have seen. Screw Netflix. Watch Apple TV. Do your little 3-month subscription. Free subscription if you're not subscribed, and just check out some shows and you'll be hooked. Silo is amazing. It's back, but you can binge and rot to season 1 of Silo because it's only one season prior. The same thing with Severance. I've got my family members on Severance. It is a brilliant show. I think Ben Stiller is one of the creators of that show, and it is absolutely freaking amazing. So, those are the things. Wolf the Penguin was something that I began to rot to, and then I had to just watch every week like everybody else. But Silo and Severance, you can definitely watch rot to the first seasons if you have not yet watched them. I give out great recommendations, so you should take my word for it. I will never let you down when it comes to a TV recommendation, okay? All right, that is the end of today's show. And thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time. Please follow this podcast, leave a review if you like it. And if you like what you hear, come back. And until next time, set some good intentions for your week. And remember, always be a vibe.